It's a warm Tuesday afternoon in St. Joseph, Missouri. The grass is green and freshly cut. The summer air is thick and hot, carrying the sound of shoulder pads crashing together and whistles blowing across the practice field. Hundreds of fans are pressed against the barriers, craning their necks, phones raised high, hearts pounding, because they're not just here to watch football. They're here to see him. The man who just walked out of the biggest wedding the world has seen in decades. The man who, less than 4 weeks ago, stood at the altar inside Madison Square Garden, dressed in Christian Dior, and promised forever to the most famous woman on the planet. And then he turns. He walks toward the fans. He starts signing. He starts laughing. He's cracking jokes. He's in his element. And then, out of nowhere, a young fan shouts something at him. Something so simple, so casual, so personal. And what Travis Kelce says back, in 3 seconds flat, stops everyone around him dead in their tracks. It trends online within hours. It breaks hearts and melts them at the same exact time. You're about to find out exactly what was said. But first, you need to understand just how wild the road was that got Travis Kelce to that moment on that field, on that Tuesday afternoon, signing autographs like a man who has just lived through the greatest few months of his entire life. Because this isn't just a football story. This isn't just a celebrity gossip moment. This is a story about a man standing at the very edge of everything, the end of a legendary career, the beginning of a brand new life, and somehow, in the middle of all of it, making a random kid feel like the most important person in the world. Stay with me, because this story, it goes deep. You have to understand who Travis Kelce is before any of this makes sense. Most people who are watching this right now, maybe you found this because you love Taylor Swift. Maybe you found this because you love football. Maybe you just saw the headline and thought, wait, what? Either way, here's what you need to know. Travis Kelce is not just a football player. He is, by almost every measure that exists, the greatest tight end who has ever played the game of football. 11 Pro Bowls. Multiple Super Bowl rings. The guy rewrote what the position even looked like. He made tight ends cool. He made tight ends famous. He made tight ends rich. He was drafted in 2013 by the Kansas City Chiefs, a third-round pick out of Cincinnati, and from the moment he got his hands on the ball, it was clear that something was different about this guy. He was too big to be that fast. Too fast to be that strong. Too strong to be that smooth with the ball in his hands. He defied physics in ways that made defensive coordinators lose sleep. By the time 2023 rolled around, Kelce was already a legend. But legends, it turns out, can still surprise you. Because in the summer of 2023, Travis Kelce went to a concert. Not just any concert. He went to the Eras Tour. Taylor Swift's Eras Tour. Right there in Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium. And he showed up with something ridiculous, a friendship bracelet. A handmade friendship bracelet with his phone number on it. He wanted to meet her. He wanted to give it to her backstage. He didn't get in. Now, most people would have gone home, been embarrassed, and never spoken about it again. Travis Kelce. He went on his podcast, the New Heights podcast, the one he co-hosts with his brother Jason, and he told the whole story. Out loud. To the world. He put himself out there in a way that most grown men, let alone NFL superstars, would never dare to do. He talked about the bracelet. He talked about how he couldn't get backstage. He talked about how he wished he could have met her. And Taylor Swift heard it. Of course she did. Her fans hear everything. And privately, quietly, she reached out. She called. They talked. They started spending time together. And as Taylor herself later told Time magazine when they named her Person of the Year, we actually had a significant amount of time that no one knew about, which I'm grateful for, because we got to get to know each other. And then, on September 24th, 2023, Taylor Swift walked into Arrowhead Stadium for a Kansas City Chiefs game. The world was never quite the same after that. When Taylor Swift showed up to that first Chiefs game, something happened that nobody in the NFL had ever really experienced before. A completely new audience showed up to football. Swifties, millions of them, suddenly cared about the Kansas City Chiefs. They started learning the rules of football. They started buying jerseys. They started going to games. Suddenly, Arrowhead Stadium wasn't just a football stadium anymore. It was a place you went to see Taylor's boyfriend play. And through all of it, through all the cameras, all the coverage, all the people who had opinions about whether Taylor Swift belonged on NFL broadcasts, Travis Kelce handled it with a grace and a warmth that nobody expected. He never once made her feel like a distraction. He celebrated her openly. He went to her Eras Tour shows all over the world. He sat in those stadium boxes and screamed like a teenager. He cheered louder than anyone in the building. He was, by every account, completely and totally gone for this woman. And she was gone for him. She wrote songs about him. She performed in front of hundreds of thousands of people in Tokyo, and then flew straight back to the United States, got on a plane, crossed the world overnight, just to watch him play in the Super Bowl. Think about that for a second. She got on a plane after performing for hours and hours in Japan, flew across the entire Pacific Ocean, landed in Las Vegas, walked into Allegiant Stadium, and watched her boyfriend's team win. And when they won, Travis Kelce found her in the crowd, and the image of the two of them holding each other in that stadium. That picture went everywhere. That picture became something people will tell their grandchildren about. The love story was real. Anyone watching could see that. But even love stories have their difficult chapters. Here is where it gets hard to talk about. Because 2025 was not a good year for the Kansas City Chiefs. Think about that sentence for a moment. The Kansas City Chiefs, the team that won back-to-back Super Bowls, finished the 2025 NFL season with a record of 6 wins and 11 losses. They didn't make the playoffs. They missed entirely. A team that had become synonymous with winning, with dominance, with Lombardi trophies, suddenly couldn't find its footing. And it wasn't just the team. It was Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback who makes the Chiefs tick, the engine of the whole operation, went down with a serious knee injury late in the season. Season-ending. Devastating. The kind of injury that changes everything heading into an off-season. And Travis Kelce was there. He was on that field every week. He played all 17 games. He caught 76 passes for 851 yards and 5 touchdowns, respectable numbers by most standards. But for Kelce, for a guy who built his career on being the most reliable weapon on the field, 3 straight seasons without reaching 1,000 receiving yards. The questions started. They got louder. Is Kelce done? Is this the end? He's 36 years old. His body has been through 14 years of NFL punishment. Retirement conversations were everywhere. His name kept coming up in those discussions, not because people wanted him to retire, but because the math of professional sports is brutal and unforgiving, and age doesn't care about your legacy. Was Travis Kelce running out of time? And then, right in the middle of all of that uncertainty, all that noise, all those questions, something happened that had nothing to do with football. Something that reminded everyone what actually matters. Chapter 4, July 3, 2026, the day the world stood still. July 3, 2026. Madison Square Garden, New York City. If you were alive during this moment, you remember where you were when you found out. Because this wasn't just a celebrity wedding. This was something different. This was something that felt like it belonged in a movie, like someone had written the perfect ending to a love story that had played out in front of the entire world for 3 years. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift got married. The city of New York was electric. Fans had lined the streets outside Madison Square Garden, one of the most iconic buildings in the world, a venue that has hosted championship fights, legendary concerts, NBA Finals games, and now it was hosting this. A wedding. Their wedding. The streets directly around MSG were shut down. There were 135 NYPD officers assigned to the venue. Barriers kept the thousands of fans who had gathered from camping on the sidewalks. Black SUVs rolled in through white tents set up outside. Enormous floral bouquets were carried inside by the armload. And then the guests started arriving. Tom Brady, Andy Reid, Cooper Kupp, Roger Goodell, Gigi Hadid, Bradley Cooper, Selena Gomez, Ed Sheeran, Jimmy Fallon, Hugh Grant, J-Lo, Steven Spielberg, Chris Rock, Ethan Hawke, Benson Boone, Abby Wambach. The list went on and on and on. Inside, something extraordinary was happening. Guests entered the venue and walked through a tunnel, a long, beautiful tunnel decorated with photographs of Taylor and Travis. Photos from their childhoods. Photos from their relationship. Their entire love story told in images, displayed like an art gallery, leading guests deeper and deeper into the venue. And then the tunnel opened up into what guests would later describe as a secret garden. Flowers. Lights. Something that felt like a dream made real. The ceremony was officiated by Adam Sandler. Of all the people in the world Taylor and Travis could have chosen, Adam Sandler. And if that sounds surprising, just know that it was reported as one of the most moving, funny, and beautiful ceremonies anyone in that room had ever witnessed. One guest later described the whole evening as a pinch-me moment. Like something you couldn't believe was actually happening. Taylor wore Christian Dior haute couture, Cartier jewelry, custom Christian Louboutin shoes. Travis wore Christian Dior too, standing at an altar inside Madison Square Garden, looking at the woman who had changed his life. Austin Swift, Taylor's brother, was her man of honor. Jason Kelce, Travis's brother, his best friend, his biggest fan, stood beside him as best man. Two brothers, each standing next to their sibling on the biggest day of either of their lives. The reception that followed. Paul McCartney performed. Stevie Nicks performed. There was a raffle featuring the same model of car that Travis and Taylor had taken on their very first date together. Outside on the Madison Square Garden Jumbotron, enormous glowing letters lit up the New York night. Just married. And the crowd outside, hundreds of fans who had waited for hours, erupted. Now here's where the story gets interesting. Because most people, after a wedding like that, take a honeymoon. They disappear for a month. They go somewhere warm and quiet, and they just exist in their new life for a little while. That's what normal people do. Travis Kelce is not a normal person. Less than 4 weeks after standing at that altar, less than 4 weeks after one of the most talked about weddings in modern history, Travis Kelce showed up in St. Joseph, Missouri, walked onto the Missouri Western State University practice field, put his helmet on, and reported for his 14th NFL training camp. Just like that. The wedding was July 3rd. Training camp opened July 29th. 26 days. That's it. That's all the time he had between "I do" and "let's run routes." And here's the thing, when he showed up, the place went absolutely crazy. There is a video that circulated everywhere online from that morning. It's taken from up above, from a high angle, and you can see Travis Kelce walking down the hill toward the practice field at St. Joseph. And the sound on that video, even through a phone speaker, gives you chills. Because the fans who were there, the season ticket holders who had been granted access to opening day of camp, they absolutely erupted when they saw him coming. The cheering, the screaming, the applause. You would have thought the Chiefs had just won the Super Bowl all over again. And Travis Kelce, he acknowledged them. He waved. He smiled that big, loud, unmistakable Travis Kelce smile. And he said something to the crowd as he walked past, something that a journalist standing nearby later reported he heard clearly over all the noise. "Living the dream, baby. Living the dream." 3 words. Said so easily, so naturally, so genuinely, like a man who actually, completely means them. Like a man who has arrived exactly where he was always supposed to be. The practice session itself was something to watch. Kelce was on the field with Patrick Mahomes, back from his season-ending injury, cleared to practice, hungry to get back to the top. The two of them reconnecting on the field, running plays together, finding that rhythm that has defined so much of the Chiefs' success over the years. It was like watching old friends remember who they are. Andy Reid, the head coach, a man who had attended Kelce's wedding just weeks earlier, told reporters after practice that Kelce looked to be in excellent shape. And then Reid smiled and made a joke that the locker room had clearly been waiting to deliver. He suggested that maybe Kelce's conditioning had come from all the dancing at his wedding reception. The internet, naturally, had a lot to say about Kelce's appearance at camp. Some fans thought he looked incredible. Married life got him moving different, one person wrote online. Others were less kind, comparing his physique to his brother Jason, or joking that he'd maybe enjoyed the wedding buffet a little too much. But whatever anyone thought, Travis Kelce was there. He was present. He was working. And when practice ended, he did something that told you everything you need to know about what kind of man he is. He walked over to the fans. Not rushed. Not obligatory. Not the kind of wave and keep moving that you sometimes see from athletes after a long practice when all they want is water and a shower. He walked over to the fans, and he gave them time. He signed autographs. He high-fived people. He stopped and looked people in the eye. He laughed. He talked. He was, in every sense of the phrase, fully present for the people who had shown up to see him. The Kansas City Chiefs captured some of it on video and posted it to Instagram with a simple caption. Felt the love from Chiefs Kingdom today. And then, and this is the part you've been waiting for, something happened that nobody planned. Nobody scripted. Nobody could have made up. A voice rose up from the crowd. Young. Excited. Nervous, maybe. The kind of voice that belongs to someone who has one shot at this moment and knows it. Travis. Say hi to Tay-Tay for me. The crowd around that section of the barrier went quiet for just half a second. Tay-Tay. Not Taylor. Not Taylor Swift. Not Mrs. Kelce. Not your wife. Tay-Tay. The little nickname. The sweet, silly, affectionate pet name that fans sometimes use for Taylor Swift. The kind of name you'd use when you've loved someone so long and so deeply that the full version of their name feels too formal. Tay-Tay. Travis Kelce stopped. He looked over at the fan. And then, without missing a single beat, he grinned. That massive, movie star grin. And he said 4 words. You call her Tay-Tay too? Too. That one word. That one tiny, 2-letter word at the end of that sentence. Too. Do you understand what that means? Do you see what he just did? He didn't say, that's cute. He didn't laugh it off. He didn't even address the fans' request. He went somewhere else entirely. He went to a place that was warm and revealing and completely unguarded, in the way that only genuinely happy people can be. He confirmed, in the most casual, most off-the-cuff, most completely unconscious way imaginable, that he calls his wife Tay-Tay. In private. In their home. In the quiet moments that the world never sees. The world's biggest pop star. The woman who sold out stadiums that couldn't even hold everyone who wanted to come. The woman whose Eras tour was an international phenomenon. The woman who has been on more magazine covers than most people have had hot meals. And to Travis Kelce, in the comfort of their life together, she's Tay-Tay. The fan, whoever that young person was, absolutely lost their mind. The people standing nearby lost their minds too. Within hours, clips of the moment were everywhere. Social media caught fire. The comment sections filled up with people going, wait, what? And, I'm not okay, and, he called her Tay-Tay too, and, why is this the most romantic thing I've ever heard in my entire life? Because that's the thing about a moment like that. It wasn't planned. It wasn't for the cameras. It wasn't a PR stunt or a carefully crafted media strategy. It was just Travis Kelce, after a long practice, standing at a barrier, signing autographs, being exactly who he is. And who he is, it turns out, is a man who is completely, unashamedly, unapologetically in love with his wife. You know, there are a lot of celebrity couples in the world. A lot of famous people who get together and get photographed and say the right things in interviews. You've seen it 1,000 times. The red carpet photos. The coordinated outfits. The carefully worded social media posts. And sometimes it's real. But sometimes you can just tell that it's performance. That it's image management. That behind the scenes, the reality looks a lot less romantic than the pictures suggest. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift never felt like that. From the very beginning, from the moment she sat in that suite at Arrowhead for the first time in September 2023, and the cameras found her, and the whole country watched her watch him play, there was something different about this one. Something genuine. Something that felt like you were watching 2 people who had actually found each other. Like the universe had conspired, across years and continents and concerts and football games, to put these 2 specific people in the same room at the same time. And the Tay-Tay moment at training camp? That moment was the proof. Because you can rehearse a lot of things. You can prepare interviews. You can plan social media posts. You can have publicists and managers and entire teams of people crafting your public image. But you cannot rehearse what happens when a random fan yells something unexpected at you in the middle of signing autographs. You cannot rehearse what comes out of your mouth in those split-second moments when there's no time to think. What came out of Travis Kelce's mouth in that moment was the truth. Warm. Easy. Effortless. The truth of a man who goes home to his person and calls her Tay-Tay, and sees absolutely nothing strange about admitting that to the world when the world happens to ask. That's what people felt when they saw that clip. That's why it spread so fast. That's why people watched it over and over, millions of times, in the same day. Because it was real. Now, let's talk about the fan for a second. Because in all the coverage of this moment, in all the social media posts and the news articles and the hot takes, the fan sort of faded into the background. They became a supporting character in someone else's story. But think about what that moment was like for them. You've traveled to St. Joseph, Missouri. You've stood at that barrier in the summer heat, pressed in with hundreds of other people, hoping to get a glimpse. Maybe you've been there for hours. Maybe you're young, a kid who loves Taylor Swift, who maybe became a football fan because of Taylor Swift, who is experiencing something completely new and exciting and overwhelming. And you see Travis Kelce walking down that row, signing things, talking to people. And you think, this is my one chance. One shot. One moment. And you open your mouth and you say the thing. The honest thing. The real thing. Not, you're the greatest tight end ever, though he is. Not, I can't believe I'm meeting you, though that was probably true too. You asked him to say hi to Tay-Tay. Because deep down, what you really wanted, what almost all of us want when we love a celebrity couple, is to feel like they're real. Like the love is real. Like the person standing in front of you actually goes home to someone who matters to them. Like the story we've all been watching from the outside is as genuine as it looks. And Travis Kelce gave that fan exactly what they didn't even know they were asking for. He made it real. He made a young fan's day. And then he made about 50 million strangers on the internet feel something warm in their chest on a random Tuesday in the middle of summer. Chapter 10. The weight of what comes next. But here's where we have to zoom out again. Because as beautiful as that training camp moment was, as warm and funny and human as it felt, there is a bigger story happening around it. And it's one that every Chiefs fan, every NFL fan, every person who has followed Travis Kelce's career has to sit with. This might be the last one. This training camp, the 14th of his career, the first as a married man, might be the final time Travis Kelce goes through this process. The heat of July in St. Joseph, the smell of freshly cut grass, the sound of pads hitting pads, the walk down that hill with fans cheering on both sides. He re-signed with the Chiefs in the off-season. A 3-year deal worth $54.7 million. So technically, he's locked in. But anyone who has followed sports long enough knows that contracts and intentions don't always line up. He's 36 years old. He'll turn 37 in October, which would make him one of the oldest starting players in the entire NFL. And the numbers tell a story that's hard to ignore. 3 straight seasons below 1,000 receiving yards. For a player whose peak looked like 1,400 yards in a season, that's a significant drop. It doesn't mean he's bad. 76 catches and 5 touchdowns in a single season would make most players extremely happy. But it speaks to the natural trajectory of even the greatest careers. The greatest players don't last forever. And the ones who love the game the most, they sometimes stay a little too long, chasing something that's already been won. But here's the counter-argument. Here's what gives Chiefs Kingdom hope. Patrick Mahomes is coming back. He's been working all off-season, rehabbing, grinding, getting his knee right, and the early reports from training camp suggest he looks sharp. The connection between Mahomes and Kelce isn't something that disappears overnight. It's built on years of reps, of trust, of knowing each other's tendencies before the play even develops. That doesn't go away. And the Chiefs made a massive move this offseason. They brought in Kenneth Walker III, the Super Bowl MVP, to give Mahomes another weapon, to take pressure off the passing game, to open up space for Kelce to do what Kelce does best. Maybe the pieces are coming together. Maybe 2026 is the bounce-back year that everyone in Kansas City is hoping for. Maybe Mahomes gets healthy and finds his rhythm and the Chiefs start doing what they always do, winning when nobody thinks they can. And maybe Travis Kelce has one more great season left in him. Or maybe, and this is the possibility that nobody wants to say out loud, maybe this is the final ride. The last dance. The farewell tour. Either way, the man is going to make it worth watching. There's something that gets lost sometimes when we talk about athletes at the end of their careers. We focus so much on the decline, on the numbers, on the comparisons to what they used to be, that we forget to just appreciate what's in front of us. Travis Kelce has 1,080 career receptions. That is the most of any active player in the NFL. Over 1,000 times, a quarterback has thrown a football in Travis Kelce's direction, and Travis Kelce has caught it. Over 1,000 times, he's turned downfield and made yards. Over 1,000 times, he's done the thing that he was put on this earth to do. 11 Pro Bowls. Think about what it means to be selected to 11 Pro Bowls. That's 11 seasons where the players and coaches around the league looked at the field and said, "Yes, that man right there is one of the best at what he does." Not once. Not twice. 11 times. He has Super Bowl rings. He has been to the mountain top multiple times. He has done things on a football field that people will be studying and trying to replicate for decades. And he did all of it as himself. Loudly. Joyfully. With a personality that made people love football who had never cared about it before. He made the tight end position feel electric and fun and important in a way that changed the NFL forever. That is a legacy. That is something that lasts. And now, in the twilight of that career, he gets to walk onto a training camp practice field in St. Joseph, Missouri, as a married man, and have a random kid yell, "Say hi to Tay-Tay for me," and respond with 4 words that tell the world everything about where his head and his heart are at. He is living the dream. He said so himself. There's a reason this story spread the way it did. There's a reason that a 4-word response from a football player at a training camp practice session ended up being talked about everywhere. On sports shows, on pop culture blogs, in group chats between people who hadn't spoken in weeks. It's because we don't get many moments like this anymore. We live in a world of curated images and carefully managed narratives. We live in a world where public figures have entire teams dedicated to making sure that every word, every photo, every appearance lands exactly the way it was intended to land. And that's understandable. The scrutiny is intense. The consequences of one misstep are enormous. But every now and then, something slips through. Something unscripted. Something real. A handmade friendship bracelet with a phone number on it. A flight from Tokyo across the entire Pacific Ocean to watch a football game. A jumbotron outside Madison Square Garden that says, "Just married," while fans cry on the sidewalk. And a 4-word response to a kid at a training camp barrier, "You call her Tay-Tay too?" These are the moments that last. These are the moments people remember. Not the box scores, not the statistics, not the carefully edited highlight reels, but these small, unplanned, completely human moments where someone famous is just a person. Just a person who loves someone. Travis Kelce loves Taylor Swift. And when a kid asked him to pass along a message using the most affectionate possible nickname, he laughed, and he smiled, and he confirmed, without even thinking about it, that yes, in the quiet of their private life together, he calls her that too. That's everything. That's the whole story. So where does this go from here? The Chiefs are gearing up for the 2026 season with something to prove. A 6-11 year is not what Kansas City is built for. That fanbase, that loud, red-clad, incredibly loyal fanbase that packs Arrowhead Stadium every Sunday, they know what winning feels like. They've lived it. They've celebrated it. They've danced in the streets and worn the shirts and watched the confetti fall. They want it back. And Travis Kelce, the man who has been at the center of so many of those celebrations, who has raised so many trophies, who has made so many plays in so many big moments, he wants it back too. You could feel it in the way he walked down that hill on opening day. You could feel it in the way he put his helmet on and went to work. You could feel it in the way he stood at that barrier after practice and gave people his time. He still cares. He still wants this. He is not here to collect a paycheck. He is not here to coast. He is here to compete. Patrick Mahomes, the guy who makes it all go, is coming back. He is healthy. He is hungry. He has a point to prove after a season that nobody in Kansas City wants to revisit. Kenneth Walker III is going to line up in that backfield and give defenses a completely different set of problems to solve. When you have to account for a running back of that caliber, it creates space. It creates opportunities. It creates the exact kind of environment where Travis Kelce, even at 36, can still be dangerous. And there is something about a man who just got married to the love of his life that changes things. Ask anyone who's ever been truly, deeply happy, genuinely happy, the kind of happy that settles down into your bones and makes you feel like the ground beneath your feet is solid, and they'll tell you. It affects everything. It affects how you carry yourself. It affects how much energy you have. It affects how you fight through the hard moments. Travis Kelce is happy. He is living the dream, baby. He told us so himself. And happy men with something to prove are dangerous. Here's the thing about Travis Kelce that people are going to write about for a very long time. He was one of the greatest football players who ever lived. That much is settled. That much belongs to history, and nobody can take it from him regardless of what happens from this point forward. But more than that, he was somebody who showed up as a complete human being. He didn't separate his football life from the rest of who he was. He didn't pretend to be something he wasn't. He wore the friendship bracelet to the concert. He talked about rejection on his podcast. He cheered from the stands at his girlfriend's shows. He cried when it mattered. He laughed when there was something to laugh about. He was not afraid to be in love, and he was not afraid to let people see it. That is rare. In the world of professional sports, in the world of celebrity, in the world in general, genuine vulnerability is rare. The willingness to let people see you, really see you, not just the highlight reel version but the real version, that takes courage. Travis Kelce has always had courage on the football field. But the kind of courage he showed off the field, showing up at Taylor Swift's concerts, being photographed in those moments, putting himself out there in ways that had nothing to do with touchdowns or yards or Super Bowl rings, that is a different kind of courage. And the result? A fan base that stretches far beyond sports. Millions of people who care about this man not because of what he does on a football field, but because of who he is when the helmet comes off. And a moment at a training camp barrier. 4 words, completely unplanned, completely unrehearsed, that reminds the whole world why we fall in love with love stories in the first place. You know what's beautiful about the training camp moment? It didn't have to be anything. The fan could have asked for an autograph. Kelce could have signed it and moved on. It would have been a perfectly good memory for that fan to carry for the rest of their life. I met Travis Kelce. He signed my jersey. The end. But instead, the fan reached for something a little more. Something a little braver. Said the thing that was in their heart. Shouted across a barrier to a freshly married football legend, in the middle of a noisy training camp practice session, and asked him to pass along a greeting to his wife using a sweet nickname that millions of people use for a woman they've never met but somehow love anyway. And Travis Kelce, in the way that Travis Kelce does things, looked up, made eye contact, smiled that smile, and gave them something they will remember for the rest of their life. Not just an autograph. Not just a handshake. A glimpse inside. A tiny, perfect window into a life that from the outside looks impossibly glamorous and impossibly big, and in that moment became human. Became small and warm and real. You call her Tay-Tay too? Yes. He does. And she's probably somewhere right now. Maybe in a studio, maybe on a stage, maybe just sitting in their home, completely unaware that this small, beautiful, ridiculous, perfect moment happened at a training camp in St. Joseph, Missouri, on a hot Tuesday in July. Or maybe she knows. Maybe he told her later, laughing, probably still grinning about it. Babe, this kid at camp asked me to say hi to Tay-Tay. And maybe she laughed too. That's the story. A young fan. A simple request. A 4-word response that cracked open a window into one of the great love stories of our time. And a football legend, on the edge of the twilight of his career, at the beginning of the rest of his life, walking down a hill in the Missouri summer heat, into a crowd of people who love him, and meaning it, completely and totally, when he says, "Living the dream, baby." He really, truly is. If you stuck with this story all the way to the end, drop a comment right now. I want to know, what was the moment that hit you hardest? Was it the Tay-Tay reveal? Was it the wedding tunnel full of photos? Was it the Jumbotron lighting up over New York City? Tell me down below. And if you think someone else needs to see this story, share it with them. Because sometimes the best moments in sports aren't the ones that happen inside the lines. Sometimes they happen at a barrier, between a fan and a superstar, in 4 unscripted words that mean everything. See you in the next one.